We're sitting down with the honoree for the Utah Senior Open this year. This is Mr. Doug Vilven. And Doug, congratulations on the award. This is awesome, isn't it?
It really is, and you know what's even more awesome about it, there's probably 16 people in this room that could just as well have had it, but fortunately they picked me this time, so it was nice.
It's well deserved. How did you end up here out in Utah?
Well, I was a Midwest kid in Kansas, and my dad kept looking for better opportunities, so we moved, when I was in fourth grade, we moved to Iowa for a year, and then Illinois for 3 years in the middle of Illinois near Peoria, and then Minnesota for almost a year, and then at the end of 8th grade I moved out here.
So you ended up at Highland High School. When you were in school, did you dream of being a golf professional?
It kind of started back when I was in 8th grade. It wouldn't look like it now, but I was a pretty good high jumper. I could jump over my head, but we had all those sawdust, this dates me again, the sawdust deal. So I ended up breaking my arm, and I lived right across the street on Wilshire Boulevard from the country club, and this guy kept going around every night by himself, and I thought, I gotta have some company here, because I didn't have any friends at the time. It was at the end of school and all that, so I went over, and it ended up he was the caddy master at the country club, Red Ruth. And so I started looping for him those little holes up there, 8 and 2 at the country club, and pretty soon I went over and met T. Brank and got a job shagging balls, and the rest is that's all I knew how to do at some point. So
you ended up at college where?
Utah State. I'm an ag. Yeah.
Play golf up there?
Played golf. I won the state high school tournament I wouldn't even have placed in the top 10 now with the scores we shot then, but I think I had 4 people to beat that knew which end of the club with the soft end to hold. So and so that was kind of interesting, and I got a big scholarship, $250 scholarship from the UGA at that time, and but that got you through a whole year of school then, which you don't remember.
No, I got the same scholarship. That's how I got in. Yeah, that's how I went to college.
Yeah, that was so I didn't want to stay home. I probably wouldn't have lasted more than 3 or 4 days at the Y with my behavior. So I picked the Aggieville to go to school and just thoroughly enjoyed it up there.
What kind of clubs did you have? What was the first set of clubs that you bought?
I bought a set from T. They were 55 Spalding top flights. They were that big top thick thing. You could only hit the ball about 6 feet off the ground with them, but he charged me $5 a week. $45 they cost, $5 a week. So that was my first ones that I bought that were a full set. And then in the old days, they used to come in a box with the woods. So I had some McGregor woods and some blackface McGregor irons, and that was my first.
And the woods were wood?
Oh yeah, absolutely, persimmon wood, and that was my first real set. And I think they were $265 for the whole thing.
What kind of golf balls did you play back then? Because I remember playing Ram 3D and Blue Max and Golden Ram.
Well, the Max Flies were good until they went out of round. Remember, they were popping in the trunk for poor old Rid. Jack Rid had a tough time, but that was I played mostly Spaldings, I think then, and I remember Dot came out with and their marketing plan was to make the ball too heavy. So for about 6 months we were playing with a ball that went at least 40 yards further than anything else, and they finally busted them and came out and they had to put the thing, I don't know how many ounces they weighed, but they were heavy. Yeah.
Most people now, most of the young professionals know you as one of the premier rules officials in the state. They probably don't know that you worked in the golf business for all these years. Where did you work along the way?
I worked for the Utah Stars for 1 year out of college, back with when Bill Howard was the announcer and Liddell Anderson was the coach, and I was better off in the golf business. So Jimmy Thompson came up to play in the Utah Open, and T. Branca kind of lined me up with him, and Jimmy was looking for somebody single and that was decent with people. So I was at least single, and so I went down to Los Angeles at Los Coyotes Country Club with Jimmy, and that was my first job, and I just kind of packed my car and stayed down there I didn't come home, I don't know, for a year and a half or something like that. It was a great experience, a great club, and then Jimmy moved up here to Tri-City at the time. It's Fox Hollow now, and so I came up with him, and ended up going back down to the desert in Palm Springs as an assistant at Tamarisk, and that was very interesting. The people down there, all the Marx brothers were members, and Kirk Douglas and Gregory Peck, and so it was kind of an interesting dynamics there, and then came back up, went to Illinois as a head professional out of Tamarisk for 2 or 3 years, I can't remember exactly. Then I wanted to come back. At the time I'd married Denise, and in 1975, and I wanted to get back here, and so did she. Her family's from here, so we got the job in Tooele, which was also a lot of fun. A lot of little 9-hole Ochre Hills out there at the time, and went to Park City after that, and thought I ought to go out on my own. So I was a proud owner of a range, golfing around from I think '93 to we sold it in 2012.
You dabbled a little bit in the broadcast business. I mean, you helped televise the old Showdown Classic with Bill Marcroft and Billy Howard.
Right, that was also very interesting. It was at Jeremy at the time, and I think it was a junior-senior when I first got into it. And I worked for a year with Archie, who didn't know much about golf. He's a good guy, didn't know much about golf, and we were on a tower that was about 40 feet in the air. It just scared me to death even climbing up the thing. No safety, nothing. And so then after that I worked with Bill Howard, but I kind of got the job. Somebody asked Lanny at the time, Lanny Nielsen, they said, do you know anybody that could kind of talk a little bit and do this, knows a little bit about golf? And I said, yeah, Vilven's over there at Park City. He could maybe help you out. And I just had a blast doing it. They overpaid me and everything, so it was a lot of fun.
Talk about the rules. How did you get involved in officiating?
Jimmy Thompson was the one that kind of got me into it. And he said, if you're the golf professional at your club, you really ought to know the rules better than everybody else. It would behoove you to... That ought to be part of your mantra there. And I said, oh, so I got involved with that. I started going to rule schools, I think, in '88. Then just started volunteering and got involved in this and got involved in that. And I never was a great player, but as my playing skills started to wane, this rules deal looked like a pretty good deal. So if you're going to stay involved, you got to be out. There's got to be some excuse for you to be out there. So that's how I got involved with it. And I thoroughly enjoy it. Still have not gotten the tournament 100% right yet, but we're still working on it.
You say you weren't much of a player, but that's a lie. You could play.
Oh, I could play a little, but I mean, I won the state high school tournament, and Bob Rudd and I were fortunate. No, Goodliff was fortunate enough to tie us out at the best ball in Wendover. So yeah, I could play a little bit, but I never was a very good putter. And I caddied for Bob Golby in the '65 last Open that was here in Utah. That was a tour event, and I decided then that wasn't a good way to make a living. They were grumpy people, and it was like a big circus out there, and so I never really had a lot of aspiration. I never put as much time in as I probably could have, should have, but I still enjoy playing. But it's so bad now. When you can, I'm not that, my hearing's not that good, and I can hear the ball land on my drives now, so it's really getting sad.
Looking back on your life in golf, is there anything you'd change? Has it just been a great ride?
It really has. I advise young guys when I'm still doing some adjunct faculty, and I say, get a job as far north as you can get it. Pierre, South Dakota, or someplace up in there would be good. Fargo, maybe. And then you'd have a lot more time with your family and that kind of thing. Park City was about as close to a perfect job as I had, and as far as time off and busy when you were busy. But I don't think I would have done much different. Jimmy kind of advised me to make sure you know whether you want to be at a private club or resort or public, and my personality fit a lot better at a public resort kind of golf course. So fortunately, I made the right choice there, and I haven't had 10 bad days really. We all have a few, but I haven't had very many bad ones.
Doug, tell me about some of the movie stars that you got to meet, because that's kind of a cool thing.
Well, yeah, when we were down at town, I was working the Salt Lake Country Club in the summer. That's where I met my wife, Denise, who's been terrific and more involved in golf now than I am. And then in Tamarisk in the desert in the wintertime, and it was a predominantly Jewish club, but there were some Gentile members there, like Bob Hope was a member, and Frank Sinatra, who lived on the course, and I actually got to meet Frank one night at the starter out there. Scorpy introduced me to him. He came over to our table, and fun talking to him for 15-20 minutes, but some of the guys I met, Gregory Peck, he came in the shop one day, ask if it was all right if he went out and walked on the golf course and it was raining. And most of our members would have taken a tank out there without asking. But and so it was kind of fun meeting him. All the Marx brothers were members there, and Kirk Douglas would have been a guy any guy would have loved to have hung with, and so it was really an interesting, kind of a country boy from Utah down there with all those big shots, and it was a different culture, the Jewish culture. I'd never been around. We had 2 or 3 Jewish kids at high school that I hung with, but I didn't know there was much of a difference in the culture, and there is a considerable difference, and they were the most generous, fun people to be around, and it was kind of a broadening of my scope, so to speak.
What about Dean Martin?
Dean, there was rumors around he was there, played quite a bit there, and people thought that drinking thing was just a deal he put on. He was out on the range, which was right outside the front door there, and he got a little overserved, and he tripped over the ball picker, and he had his fanny right in the basket, and we had to go help him out. So he occasionally got into the cups a little bit.
Doug Vilven, congratulations. This award is much deserved. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Wes. It's and appreciate your involvement in everything that we do, because it really adds a lot to what we're doing.
To get to meet and hang with people like you is my pleasure.
Well, thanks, Wes.